is 56 minutes away from the deadline, which is amazing. I feel like the we need some countdown music. I wonder what kind of options do we have? Let's see. What kind of countdown music can we bring in here? Oh yeah, there we go. The Unfiltered Band bringing us the countdown to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and what has been a rough few hours for the Met fans who were freaking out with 56 minutes to go. My God, what are they going to do? Heaven forbid if there's some sort of an issue, if they're not able to get the players that they need. By the way, Wilson Contreras, perhaps still in the mix for them. We'll watch that. We'll keep you posted. Just post, and apologize for the technical issues with the guest side. Just posted my conversation with Tyler Kepner of the New York Times, who joined me, so you get a chance to get that. And I'm going to react to a lot of your questions, basically just interact with you here for the final hour. For example, a Twitter handle that I can't even read out loud because, I had a potty mouth issue once, if you haven't heard, with Mike. It says, can you call Epler and find out what the F he's doing? I could try. Billy? I'll tell you what he's doing. Look, they're cookie cutter piecing it together right now if you're the Mets. And if you want to ask me any questions and get on Twitter right now, you could jump in literally and you just shoot me a question, and I'll react or talk about. You want to vent and let me know what you have not done well, and all of those things you can. The Mets have upgraded, all right? You had J.D. Davis. You now have Darren Ruff. And based on what we've seen, especially against left, an upgrade. There's no doubt that those two guys, look, you got Vogelbach. You don't have to do everything with one player. So piecing it together from a DH side for the Mets, that's no problem. Ruff, Vogelbach, that's helpful. You added Tyler Naquin, right? All those moves they're good depth moves. Let's be fair. If Jacob deGrom is healthy, and we're going to see him tonight against the sacrificial Nationals, if Jacob deGrom is healthy with Max Scherzer in the rotation that you have, if you're a Met fan, you feel pretty good about that. You should feel pretty good about that, at least. All right? You got better, but you have to get better in the back end of the bullpen. The Mets have got to add, whether it's a Chafin or bringing back a Loop or however they want to do it, they have got to get better in the eighth inning in general. And it doesn't have to be a left-hander. They do need somebody who can get lefties out, right? But it could be somebody from the right side who's got reverse splits. But you need to get better the back end of the bullpen. You do not want to have Edwin Diaz, if you're a Met fan, become Kenley Jansen. And you go back to specifically when Don Mattingly had Clayton Kershaw and Kenley Jansen, had nothing in between. There was no bridge there. So all of those games where Kershaw was hanging out to dry, it was because they didn't have anywhere else to go. So if you go with enough, and look, we saw it with Buck with Diaz a couple weeks ago, right? You get a big 4-out save. That's okay. And you could do that every now and again. If you're fighting in this Brave series, this 5-game series that's coming up, and you're telling me you want to do that, or you're down in the stretch of a season you want to do that, once or twice you can. But go look at all the saves that Kenley Jansen, people would get on him in the postseason. Most of them were either the 8th inning when he came in, or the 9th inning of a game where he tried to come in the 8th inning. There was a time, and you can go back and check this. This is as of a couple of years ago, not long ago, so I haven't looked at it updated. But there was a time where saves of 4 outs or more in the postseason. Mariano Rivera had 31. Goose Gossage was second with 7. And this is as of a couple of years ago, so those two probably didn't change. That's 31 and 7. All right? There are many. So you got to, as good as Sugar's been, you got to cut that gap down. Now, McGill's going to add to the bullpen. They feel like that'll be helpful. Obviously, if you have all the depth that they have, David Peterson could resurface, even though that didn't work out in relief the last time. Ask Gleyber Torres with a 2-run home run. For the Mets, let's watch them. 51 minutes left to go. See if they're able to add more than they have. The Padres continue. The adding of Brandon Drury to bring him on board with the versatility he's had. Look, Cincinnati and that stadium and a lot of that and all the playing time could play a factor. Maybe not going to get as much of an opportunity now with this stacked team with San Diego, but a option for him to move guys around. You add, and you're able to add a guy in Josh Hader in the back end of the bullpen. all right? And you're able to add in Drury, who can move pieces around. You got a switch hitter now in Bell, which upgrades you as Voit moves on, right? And Luke Voit now finding himself was going to be void of talent in a lot of ways in DC. Unfortunate. By the way, if you didn't see the quote, I retweeted it on my Twitter from, I think Hannah Kaiser, give her credit, had it out. But Davey Martinez, you're getting choked up talking about Juan Soto being like a son to him. If Jacob deGrom did not have a pitch count tonight, it'd be a no-hitter watch. It still might be from a combined side, but it would be no-hitter watch. Got to pay attention to all the moves the Padres have. And now the question will be, has he cut the gap down? All right? Have we cut the gap between where the Dodgers stood? Not going to cut it in the division. They're going to be a wild card this year. But is San Diego, when you get to the postseason, cut the gap where the Dodgers, the Braves, and the Mets were and where they were? They were clearly a second-tier team. When you think of Hader in the back end, you think of adding Drury, and clearly the big deal with Bell and Soto, the Padres absolutely have cut that gap. It's why the Giants are now sitting there in the selling mode. It's why Ruff moved. It's why to watch Carlos Rodon in the last 50 minutes, for sure, all right? One of the selling, scenarios here in the next few minutes as we get to the deadline got to be on starting pitching. You got Pablo Lopez with Miami, one to watch. You got Noah Syndergaard in Anaheim, one to watch. You got Rodon in San Francisco, one to watch. How all that's going to pan out, it comes down to the bidding. Cardinals, right? They couldn't get in on Castillo in division. They missed out on Frankie Montas. Whether they didn't want to deal, Carlson or whatever we find out is the reason they couldn't outbid San Diego. And part of that reason, again, I can't say this enough, might be the fact that San Diego felt such a push from the Dodgers being in it that they were able to give all the prospects that were necessary for Mike Rizzo to make that deal, right? But St. Louis misses out on all those players. They need, no offense to Jose Quintana, they need to upgrade more on the pitching side. Let's see what they do. The Cubs on the selling side, absolutely. Robertson already in Philadelphia. What happens with Wilson Contreras and what behind the plate? What kind of an ad could he be in Tampa Bay? Perhaps with the New Yorks with the Mets. And by the way, the Mets, the official deal, they acquired Darren Ruff from San Francisco, J.D. Davis, Thomas Sapucki, Nick Swack, and you've got Carson Seymour will also go out the other way. The deal that we saw with Soto is as big a trade deadline deal as we've ever seen. There have been a lot of big ones, most of them though, and this is where it differs in two sides. One, most of the big deals. Cliff Lee, 2009, rented, helps get you there, Phillies. 2010, rented, helps get you there. Huge performance, Texas Rangers. Justin Verlander, 2017. Think about 2021, Max Scherzer. Go back in the Wayback Machine to CC Sabathia in 2007. Randy Johnson, Astros, 2008. All of those are pitching, starting pitching. Why? Why are those always seen as the biggest? Because I don't care how many Juan Sotos you got in the lineup. If you don't get the pitching, that you need in a postseason from the starting side, if you don't get it from Musgrove, if you don't get it from Darvish, you don't get it from that group, you're not going to win anyway. If the Dodgers don't have a healthy Buehler and get it from him in that group, they're not going to win anyway. If DeGrom or not, Scherzer is not Scherzer. And even with DeGrom, certainly you're going to need the support of Walker and Bassett and Carrasco. It's the same, you see where I'm going, across the board. It's why the Yankees knew if I didn't get Castillo and they were in that 2 spot behind Seattle, they had to jump in, they get Frankie Montas. So now we'll see where the next pitchers might be that go. As it looks like, by the way, Trevor Rosenthal, hard thrower, back end, coming up an injury. We'll see what kind of an addition he could be, but Rosenthal added to the Brewers. The Brewers are known, and they are with the, I always say the leave off the last S for savings version because it's David Stearns, not Stern. But what they've done so well with the Brewers is they've found these names at deadline since he's been there that have always been way bigger than you think they're going to be. Think about the year that they got Drew Pomerantz and Trey Lyles. Combined, it seemed like they gave up a run the rest of the way. And by the way, Pomerantz had a new career in the back end of the bullpen. They move Hader, but they're still sitting in position to win the National League Central. They're still in a spot where now you can push Devin Williams down to the back end and to add another arm in Rosenthal, helpful for them. The arms race back end, you've got Hader, who moves on. Clearly, we saw what he could add to San Diego. The Twins, I got to give them credit. Normally don't do anything, not a huge move. Jorge Lopez been brilliant for the Orioles, an all-star. He slides in back there. David Robertson now finds his way to Philadelphia. And now the Mets, they need to be the next ones to make that move they need to add. Toronto, absolutely, still looking. It's why they've been in on Iglesias, in addition to the conversation with Noah Syndergaard. And don't forget, by the way, as Anthony DiComo points out, Trevor May going to rejoin the Mets tomorrow. So that's another arm. I always hate the cop-out of, we don't need to make a deal because the best deals are our additions. But if the Mets get a healthy May and a healthy DeGrom, it'll be a healthy October, not just May, if you follow me. By the way, you can follow me, you're already here, at Casey Stern, 2 YouTube channels, and please jump in on Believe and their entire network, and at Believe Network and at Believe Sports. If you don't follow them now and you don't add them now, then I will be mad at you, and if I'm mad at you, I promise you I'm very vindictive. 45 minutes now to the deadline. So we talked about the sellers. We're watching the Giants. We're watching Carlos Rodon, watching Jock Peterson. We're watching the Cubs with Wilson Contreras, watching the Angels with Noah Syndergaard, watching the Red Sox sort of with a J.D. Martinez and some of the other names who are still available. And as we get here in the next 45 minutes or so, I'll try and break down all the deals for you. Remember, you can get to me on Twitter and react, ask any questions that you want and jump in. I'll react to you as well and try and, at least the ones that are PG rated, try and answer them. A lot of Met fans are completely upset and losing their minds. Again, remember this, the way the Mets felt, they felt like they were in a good spot, especially if DeGrom healthy. The Mets are, look, they're 27 games, 28 games, or whatever it is, over 500. They've won 7 in a row. I'm not trying to give you a cop-out, and I'm not telling you they're done, as I think even with 45 minutes to go, I wouldn't be shocked if that's where Wilson Contreras ends up. By the way, if the Mets rental or not, go ahead and get a Wilson Contreras, an all-star catcher, and then you tell me Contreras is the bat, right? And he hit Spine Alonso, and then they got Ruff and Vogelbach. And by the way, Daniel Vogelbach, the record since he came to the Mets, 7-0. Guess what? Go back right now, and go look at my Twitter 5 minutes after Vogelbach was dealt. And I said, it will not take long until he's a fan favorite in New York. Go look at my Twitter. All the tweets. You're an idiot. What are you, a moron? Dan Vogelbach. Okay, he's the big guy. He looks fat. He's fun. No, I don't think so. They're 7-0. By the way, dude hit cleanup the other day because he's getting on base 2-3 times a game. All right? It's about piecing things together and making it work. It's about finding, I think about the Ben Zobrist of the world when the Royals did it, and finding the guys who can elevate in roles for you when it comes to October. Those are the kind of guys that usually the big names. It's why the Marco Scuderos. It's why Luis Sojo was never buying a drink in New York. Those guys are always important. It's not always only about the big names. And a lot of times, the throw-ins and the second guy in a deal, don't be surprised if a Josh Bell becomes much more of a factor than you're thinking in San Diego, a switch hitter who can help them in the middle of the lineup, because all you're thinking about are the kind of things that Juan Soto can bring you if you're with the Padres, as we sit now 43 minutes to go, deadline. Let's go back American League. Houston. Additions. They had Trey Mancini. Mancini, great story, but good for Mike Elias and the Orioles for doing the things they needed to do. And by the way, if you're listening to them on radio, you can catch me on their pregame show tonight about 7:05 Eastern time, right before the O's game. When you think about the Orioles, they absolutely did the right thing. It's the Paul Abdul I've been saying, the opposites attract with the cat. Take the 2 steps forward, make 2 steps back. They're not ready. They're better. They've elevated to another spot, but they need to absolutely continue to forward think and think long term, because they're just not in a position where they're good enough. We don't know exactly what they are yet. We know that it's better, right? We know that it's better. We don't know where they are. By the way, you want to speak of irony. I just saw this on Twitter, and I love this. I don't know if my guy is listening, but Matt Holliday, who I was going to have on today, and I will have on, we're going to tape a pod tomorrow, my buddy. I will be on the pregame show right after, a guy much more important to Orioles fans, who will be on right before me, I saw, because WBAL tweeted it out. And that would, of course, be number 1 overall pick, Jackson Holliday, who's also got way better hair than I do. Yeah, you can follow all of the managers and the GMs who are losing the hair as you go along the way. Buck Showalter, by the way, on tonight. Are you more excited to watch Jake pitch or not have us ask you when Jake is pitching? Courtesy of Steve Gelbs, his answer was yes. Buck, a gem, 20, as we sit here now, 42 minutes to go. So back in the American League, as I mentioned, Mancini, Astros, Christian Vasquez, who already talked about today being open, by the way, to pull the Chapman. What's that? Aroldis Chapman. Traded Gleyber Torres. Told everybody he'll see you in 2 months. What did he do? Win a World Series, came back and signed with the Yankees to now, of course, many years later, become your 6th inning guy. Vasquez, beloved. I remember talking to Christian Vasquez after, if you recall, he had to win a postseason run they made, find himself at first base in a couple of different spots. When he first got to that team, had a long storied, really, Red Sox career, if you think about all the different ups that he was part of, and a guy who can hit, great behind the plate, really good with the pitchers. He'll be a nice addition. I'm not sure Dusty's going to love him in Houston, and he and Mancini certainly bolsters things. They haven't gotten what they've needed out of Gurriel this year from the right side. You're not going to want to have the defensive Trey Mancini, but you can hide it late in games, and you know already the character of the player. That's a difficult dude, a difficult guy to lose. By the way, J.D. Davis just telling reporters, courtesy of one of my favorites in the sport, Susan Slusser, telling reporters in New York he always thought he'd play for the Giants someday. He did grow up a Dodger fan, but he gets to go back near to home. So just dingers, best of luck to him as he moves on. We talk about deals that snuck in late last night. I mentioned Jose Quintana. Quintana, a guy who is, look, it's a depth move for the Cardinals, but it's an addition in division. They've seen him. We've seen him pitch well before, and you need to get innings, by the way, to get there. They need to try and win a division. And to beat Milwaukee, and to do that, they're going to need to win more games than just the guys who are at the front end of the rotation. We talked about, the closer situation with Jorge Lopez going to the Twins. That's a good addition. Mentioned also in, all of these different movements, speaking of the Red Sox, the whole situation that was played out earlier today with Eric Hosmer, who had the no-trade scenario, did not want to go clearly to D.C., getting paid by San Diego regardless, but did not want to, regardless of the money he's making. And the fact that he was, we've seen guys take themselves, I didn't want to, be on that list, right? When you get traded to a buyer and you didn't normally think you'd play in a certain city, you may change your mind. Eric Hosmer already had on his no-trade list of teams, and 10 of them, that he did not want to go to. He didn't want to go to D.C. Trust me, it did not improve based on the fact that he knew the team was going to be an abomination for the 3+ years that he has remaining on his contract. He gets a lot happier spot, gets to go to Boston. And I think when you think about pesky Pole and the fact that they'll retool, they've gotten nothing out of first base. Maybe Haas gets rejuvenated a little bit, can help out some of the young players, and maybe be there when they get a chance to win, as we are now, if you want to win the deadline, within 39 minutes before we are done. According to Joel Sherman, Mets talking Mauricio in different packages. To me, the package that would be, and you're talking about one of the top prospects the Mets have in their system, and Ronnie Mauricio, you're looking at Wilson Contreras. That's the guy to watch. If you're a Met fan and you are watching right now and you're thinking, what are we adding? I think Andrew Chafin is a guy to watch, a name who can get out lefties and also has a great stash, and would be a nice addition, by the way, for the Mets. And I think the Wilson Contreras thing, to me, is still very real. We're talking about a rental the Cubs need to give up on. We're talking about a guy that there's no reason to hold. Holding Wilson Contreras not going to help the Cubs in any way, shape, or form. They got to deal him. And I think the Mets and the Rays, two teams that are in it right now, Mets are in a good spot. Tampa Bay is not a team that likes to give up a lot of prospects, and certainly do so for rentals. So even if the Mets are not willing to give a ton, the Padres, who are in on that, being out of it, the fact that seemingly it might be a two-team race, and that the other team is Tampa Bay, very protective of your prospect, I really do think 37 minutes to go, Mets are in a good spot to get Contreras. We'll watch that. Former Met Thor, Noah Syndergaard, according to my guy JP Morosi, down to 2 finalists, the Jays and the Phillies. Let's talk about it. 1, Wayback Machine. So remember how they got Noah Syndergaard in the first place. 2, I think about, can you imagine him and Wheeler, right? Imagine that. Him and Wheeler on a staff with the Phillies. Forget David Robertson, who every Met fan, and look, I even thought he'd end up back in New York, but with the Mets. But how about Zach Wheeler and Noah Syndergaard in some series up against like Scherzer and DeGrom? You imagine that late in the season as the Phillies try and get back into this mix. We'll watch that. The Jays need to add some pitching. They need to react. I still believe, I mentioned with the Cubs, Ian Happ would be a nice fit for them. So that's a position player to watch for Toronto. But Toronto's got to get better. They have to upgrade. No offense to Anthony Bass, who they picked up today. Maybe they get more in the back end of the bullpen. They have to upgrade in the rotation. If you're sitting there and you're looking at Toronto, you're looking at, right now, I've got the Yankees and I've got the Astros. How can I get better enough where I can really make a play against those teams in a 5 or 7 game series? Right now, look, anything can happen. We've seen that, but I don't think you feel like you're really in it to win it. They need to upgrade things, and getting some swing and miss from that pitching staff, adding more of it, adding more depth for Toronto, clearly would be a big coup for them, because I think the Jays got to do something to cut down that gap. You've watched movement. Remember, the Yankees and the Astros were better than these other AL teams before they did anything. They have only grown and increased that gap. In the National League, Dodgers, Mets, Braves, we've had this kind of change. Okay, Mets incrementally better. Braves incrementally better. I like the Grossman edition yesterday, speaking of last late night moves. And we saw what Alex did the last year with Jock Peterson, hoping that Grossman is that guy for him this year. Will Smith was doing nothing for them. I like Jake Odorizzi. Yeah, he's a contact guy, so he's not exactly a great postseason pitcher for you in any role, but he might be able to give you some innings and get you the wins to help you win a division at the back of a rotation. And I think that's the way Alex looks at it. But Braves incrementally better. Mets incrementally better. If Buehler is healthy, clearly Dodgers incrementally better. Forget the Joey Gallo thing for a second, who, thank God for, I felt bad reading the Q&A that he did, talking about just how awful he was being treated in New York and how sad the guy was. He's going to feel a jolt. He'll be in better position to succeed. He'd be in a bigger pond in terms of that lineup and the way it works with the Dodgers, and I think he'll find some kind of a successful role. But the Dodgers very minimally, incrementally better at this point here at the deadline. It's allowed what the Padres have done, and it's part of why they've done it, really to push them right into the mix. Now, the only thing that you're going to have to deal with is that, the Dodgers are sitting there. Most likely, Dodgers and Mets are going to get buys, right? Or Dodgers and Braves if they win the division, not trying to count out Atlanta. But whoever wins the NL East and the Dodgers out west going to get buys. So you're going to have a tougher road if you're San Diego. It'll be a tougher road. Nice pickup, Rock Kabako, my guy out at Masson, announcing, or at least reporting that the Orioles are acquiring Brett Phillips, who was DFA'd by the Rays. I like that. I love Phillips. I would have loved to see him, and he's such a good dude and a great fielder. And, of course, had, the huge hit going back a couple of years ago in the postseason, flying around the field. He'd be a good guy to see back in the postseason mix. Yankees were in on him, but he ends up in Baltimore as they look to at least look. The Orioles are trying to hang in here. They did the right thing. You have to sell and go upside down a little bit. I think they're doing the best that they can to not punt. They didn't really have huge assets to sell anyway. They've got a lot of kids. They, in the offseason now, what I think helps Baltimore is they are much more primed to have free agents look at them and say, okay, now you're more of a relevant team for me to look at if you're paying me money that I need, rather than saying, hey, look, I don't want to go there to a team that, remember, a year ago lost 110 games, okay? So very, very quick. Pablo Lopez, the latest on him, according to Mark Feinsand, Dodgers not in pursuit of Lopez, but two teams trying to get him in the next 35 minutes. I love Pablo Lopez. He's not Sandy Alcantara, but I love Lopez, and he's a guy who, to me, may not have the name commodity that, especially if he goes to an American League team, that people kind of know who he is, but really good arm, and he's got a great story. He's also a great kid, by the way, and talking to him a few times, watch him, but Carlos Rodon that's the difference maker guy. All right? Rodon's a difference maker. Again, you think about left-handed hitters. I got Soto. I got Freddie Freeman. I got dudes in the National League I got to get out. Well, how about if the Cardinals could go at a Carlos Rodon? Right? Think about in the American League. I mean, you can name a ton of them on the two teams that were discussed. How am I going to get Yordan Alvarez out in a big spot? Well, what if I end up adding Rodon to do it? Would the Mariners push further? Look, J-Rod down to the DL. We're not sure necessarily if their lineup's enough. Do they feel like they have enough? They're going to get in the playoffs, I think, finally, and break that stretch of 21 years. But do the Mariners sitting here with 33 minutes to go try and get a little saucy? Maybe add a Rodon. I think he'd be interesting for the Jays. We mentioned them needing pitching. Certainly Philadelphia with the Phillies would fit in there. Getting left-handed bats out, so key in a postseason. Remember this, and even think about relievers as we talk about an Andrew Chafin now with 32 minutes to go. Think about this. Years ago, here in 2010, one of the years I was told nobody show up. The Philadelphia Phillies had an unbelievable rotation. They were by far the best team in the game. They were supposed to coast right through. Javier Lopez was a pirate. Not Javi, but Javier was a pirate at the time. That's a small deal on the deadline scale in terms of names. Goes to the Giants. Well, guess what? He was getting Utley and Howard out, and they were out in a 5-game series. You have to have those guys in your pen, in the rotation. You have to get the big left-handed hitters out. And I think, to me, that's going to be really interesting to watch to see whether or not the Chafins and the Loops and those guys here with 30 minutes to go, 31 minutes, and whether or not we see a guy like Rodon from the left side go in trade here in the next 31 minutes. Again, feel free, get me here on Twitter if you're watching on this side. I know we're on YouTube as well. And get me at Casey Stern. Ask me any questions you want. I'll jump in with you here for the next 30 minutes. Pods are up for today already. One of me breaking down all the deals. You've got one of me with Todd Frazier breaking down the deals and what it's like to be traded, and one of me with Tyler Kepner with an hour to go to the deadline. All 3 of those, all today, all up on your pods, everywhere you get them, all on Believe, all with me. And I'll have 2 more podcasts for you tomorrow, including one where I break down all the deals, and one with guests, including Matt Holliday. So we are still busy as we cover the deadline. And don't forget to nab all the Prospects Are Cool shirts, too. Your T-shirts, rough. It may be a lot of barking from Met fans as I look now and I see here this, and I think about, okay, now you got 30 minutes to go until the deadline. Now we have seen, by the way, and I remember this, being on air where deals were announced, not even officially, but reported like 10 minutes after because they were at the bell. Remember the Verlander deal, waiver deadline, circa 2017, 11th hour, 59th minute, 59th second. So we're looking at, it could even be past 6 o'clock. You have to get done before. But it could be past 6 o'clock before you even see something go down with some of the deals we're talking about. And watch the rentals. This is where it's all about leverage shift. Go back to Seinfeld. It's about having the hand. If I got the leverage in a relationship, right, or the relationship in business, or in this case, when you're doing a relationship of product, right, if I got the hand, I got all the leverage. Well, I got it if I got Juan Soto and I got 2 years of control left. I got it if I'm saying, hey, I don't have to trade a Xander Bogaerts to you, right? I got it if I don't need to sell. I got a year plus to go, all right? Here's where you don't got it. You don't got it when it's a rental. You lose it when it's a rental. When there's a rental, there's nothing. When that guy's gone, I got an owner who's in my ear, and I've talked to GMs. And it may be like to you, it's not, it's $5 million. It's $5 million. My owner would rather you not have the $5 million on my books for the rest of the year prorated. And now I'm telling you I can't trade the guy. We're stuck with him. Hey, also, you got a situation where I could have gotten prospects, and now I can't. There's no waiver deadline to protect you. There's no backup plan. As we sit here with 28 minutes and 30 seconds to go, there is absolutely no way other than looking at it this way. The rentals, that's where you are right now. Doesn't mean we won't see other trades. Pablo Lopez, a guy who's controlled a little bit right, for example. But the rentals are where it's at when you get to the final minutes and doing 20 of these deadlines. Why? Because when you get to this situation now, you are talking about teams that are going to get stuck. And here's the analogy I gave the other day. When you go ahead, you look on HGTV and you say, I like to go with the jokes of like the CDs. Yes, who uses CDs anyway now? But you can get these hits and you can get, On the Wings of Love and Up Where We Belong and whatever else. And it's all $9.99. In the next 30 minutes, you'll also get a t-shirt that says I love the 80s. You think if you call them 31 minutes, they ain't giving you a t-shirt? They get 31 minutes, the price not $9.99? Those aren't real deadlines. This is a real deadline. I get stuck with a rental, I'm stuck. And if you ask me right now percentage, I'll tell you there's an 80% chance Wilson Contreras gets dealt in the next 28 minutes. How about them apples? 80. Because he's a rental. And because they're already moving pieces. Now, Ian Happ, maybe not. Contreras, going to be gone. And that's where things change because, I don't know how people will look at it, and we'll see. But if the Mets were able to nab Contreras in the next 27 minutes to go, they had a great deadline. You get DeGrom back. I got a platoon at DH and now hitting 6th or 7th or whatever in the order where I got Vogelbach and Ruff, and they both do what they need to do, Ruff. And, I got Wilson Contreras. Now, you got to add a bullpen arm, so I take that back. I'd like to add an arm too, unless you want to tell me McGill and company, that who knows? We'll see, right? David Peterson, not the guy, that's not his role. But Wilson Contreras would be a huge upgrade for the Mets in the lineup. But they're already scoring runs. By the way, Marte has been like the second hottest hitter to Goldschmidt in the National League in like 2 months. And right now you can't get Frankie Lindor out. And Nimmo just had a 4-hit game. His smile is like when the Joker fell in that ooze. With the Jack Nicholson one. Come on. They got a lot to play with. But 27 minutes to go, I still think, I'm telling you, 80%. Contreras is going to go. Question is going to be where. You know where to be. Here, at Casey Stern, Believe. If you're on Twitter, you can get on YouTube. Like all the videos, jump in. If you're on YouTube, get on here. Make sure to follow the Believe Network, at Believe Sports. And you got to believe that, yes, you can interact with me, not only today, but anytime you want. Love the DMs, love the questions, love all that stuff. Here's Mike Rizzo. It says, quote, remember Juan as a guy who was with me when I won my first world championship as a general manager. Now I'm looking to win my next one. What he didn't say after he said that to the media, and this is tongue-in-cheek, was when I join a different team. It ain't going to be there. You got an ownership change. I don't know if Mike wants to sit through that. I don't know about you, but I think Mike Rizzo's a stud, and this dude definitely getting any job he wants if he could leave and get out of his contract. And he's rebuilt teams. He's stolen guys like Trey Turner. He's found diamonds in the rough. He has been able to make the right managerial hires. I mean, think about it. Done a heck of a job. Despite ownership that, look, and they got some egg on the face there with the Lerners at times, right? It's not going to be in D.C. You're not winning any championships there anytime soon. No offense to the addition of Luke Voigt, and whatever tribute video you want for the 15 seconds we thought Eric Hosmer was going to be there. Who else is in on Pablo Lopez? We'll wait for that. How about Carlos Rodon, a rental? Does he move? Giants not as hard-pressed as the Cubs. Remember this, with 26 minutes ago, 25 and change, the Cubs, they're not a good team. The Giants, they keep Rodon and what they have. Look, J.D. Davis could perform. They traded Darren Ruff. You're not going anywhere. You still got Peterson. You still got all the guys you could have moved. The Giants could be a factor and play well to at least get to the postseason. And getting in is a big deal. You get the meaningful September games. You get the gates at your park. The owners are happy in terms of the money that comes in. And anything can happen. And by the way, they'd have Rodon. For all the good things I just told you he could do, he could do them for them in game one, if they get to a postseason. Now 24 and change to go between now and the deadline. So, recapping the day. Soto and Bell and Brandon Drury. And I keep almost wanting every time to call him Chris, who was who I wasn't friends with him, but I went to school with him at Boston University. I remember seeing him in the cafeteria often, and before he ended up being a Ranger and then a GM and all that kind of stuff. But Brandon Drury added 2 Bell, added 2 Soto, added 2 Hader. Winner number 1, clearly the Padres. I think the Nationals won from this respect if you're Mike Rizzo only. Because if the Lerners and the ownership is forcing it out, and the agent and the player that you have to trade me, they did very well. But you can't put them there because where the franchise is. Can't do it. Brian Cashman would be the number 2 for me. I think the Yankees did a really nice job. A lot of pressure on them the last few days to do something. Got to be active. Got to find a way. Got to do this. Got to do that. You got Judge. It could be his last year. You had all the disappointments. 200-win seasons with Boone. He didn't work. 60-win game season with COVID. Nobody should show up. Yankees are going to win. Brasso, and you got to go with your 6th-inning guy, Aroldis Chapman, right? Got to do something. Yankees got to win. It's not George Steinbrenner world, but pressure there for cash. For Brian to be able to go ahead and land Benintendi and early, go ahead when he lost out on Castillo to Seattle, regroup, and go ahead and bring in Montas and Trevino. The Yankees did a nice job. The Efros move, is a fit. Look, I think when you think about that 3-quarter, that angle on the right side against righties, very, very good. And they may not be done, according to John Heyman, the Yankees expressing interest in Pablo Lopez. Now, I mentioned, I like Pablo Lopez. You go ahead and you add Pablo Lopez and Montas. Then all of a sudden it's not, well, we're hoping Severino is back and does X, Y, or Z. Now it's, I got Cole, I got Montes, I got Lopez, I got what I got. And I don't care if Tyone is still up and down. And maybe I got a Severino injury because my depth improves. The other thing is, even though Efros will help you in the back end of the bullpen, Michael King was a huge loss. Clay Holmes could be getting tired. Just give up a 3-run home run a couple of days ago. Which, look, it's one game. But a guy like that who has never been in this position, you're in New York, you're the back-end dude. That's not easy, right? And they got a lot of kids back there. Cortez, what kind of innings are we going to have with Nestor? To add the depth, you can never have enough pitching depth in a postseason. There's no such thing. The amount of times that starters come out as relievers and you got to do all sorts of different crazy stuff, you can never have enough pitching depth. By the way, reported Mark Feinsand, the other side of that Hosmer deal, Max Ferguson, the 11th best prospect for the Padres, Corey Rozier, their 26th, are the ones going to the Red Sox with Hosmer as Jay Groom goes to San Diego. And we are grooming for a deadline, 21 and change, till we get to 6 o'clock Eastern time. Again, biggest names, keeping you posted. Wilson Contreras, for sure. Ian Happ, Cubs. Giants, Carlos Rodon, Jock Peterson. Marlins, Pablo Lopez. Just some of the names to watch as we see how this goes. Angels, Noah Syndergaard, for sure. Raisel Iglesias, also up on the map. How about a Bard in Colorado? Throwing some of those names as well. If the Yankees are able to get a Pablo Lopez, what a coup that would be. Already, as I just said, if you're just joining me here, Padres, you're clear number 1 for, winning the deadline, by the way, it means jack. It doesn't do anything. But it's not like you win a World Series for doing that. But right now, the Padres would win the deadline. The Yankees would be in the 2 spot for me. Losers, it's unfortunate because Mike Rizzo did a great job. It's going to be the Nationals no matter what because you got to trade a 23-year-old Hall of Fame talent away and add Josh Bell and implode, and I still got to watch Patrick Corbin pitch. It's not bueno. Let's put it that way. As we sit now, it's just over 20 minutes to go. Last year, at the deadline, when we got through into the World Series, what were we talking about here where I am in Atlanta? We were talking about their additions of Jock Peterson. We were talking about their additions, right, of Jorge Soler. The deadline changes everything. Justin Verlander, without him, Astros 2017, gone in the first round, definitely. With them, boom, World Series. And some cheating, but let's not talk about that. We don't have to talk about that. Padres disappear when the Dodgers get Max Scherzer and move forward. Go all the way back, machine. And Mariners this year, right, make the move to Castillo. I'm telling you, they're getting in. They're a postseason team. 21 years, haven't gotten there. Toronto Blue Jays, when they went in for the first time for 20 years, you know what the change was? They were able to make, they had 10 players go in different directions in the last couple of days before the deadline that year. But you know what happened the year before? Jose Bautista and the rest of that clubhouse were pissed off. Why? They didn't do anything at the deadline. The Jays were 2 games out at the deadline. They didn't do jack. They lost by 15 games to the Baltimore Orioles. It changes your mindset, changes the energy in a room, it changes the options for a manager, and it absolutely changes the outlook for your franchise, no matter who you are down the stretch, as we sit now 19 minutes and change to go with some of these big names still out there. Now, who are the teams that can still win by sitting still? Because here's the craziness, right? I mentioned New Year's Eve earlier today as like just an example of like these overrated things you wait till the last second for a decision of, and it's like the prom every year. But you don't want to sit at home. Like you have to choose to do. I got to do something, right? I mean, we're all stupid that way. What are you going to do today? I don't know. Like I can't really tell anybody I'm going to sit home. Like I get bored. I don't know what I want to eat. I got to do something. Well, standing pat at the deadline, you feel as a fan even worse. It's like, were we awake? I mean, trust me, I know, because as a hockey fan, my favorite team in the world are the Islanders, and I just want to know that Lou Lamoriello is alive, all right? And it's not an age thing, being honest, all right? You need to see that your team is active and do something. It's why I've gotten on the Twins for so many years, because forget about, you don't have to do what the Padres did with your prospects, but can I know that you even know what a parade is? I mean, the only thing the Twins do is parade right into another loss to the Yankees in the playoffs. That's all they do. And no offense to the Jorge Lopez edition, it's not enough. When the Yankees and the Astros are doing what they're doing, it's not enough, people. It's not enough in Minnesota. I got news for you. Seattle, it's going to be enough to break the stretch. That's all they need. They're just trying to get in. And they got bigger ideas as years come. Another year at Castillo, J-Rod next year, All-Star game, get a big free agent or two, and you see where I'm going. But Seattle going to get in. It's not enough. You can't play with Houston, New York. Hey, Toronto, it's not enough. You can't play right now. You can't. Now, you got some good players and anything can happen, but let's look. All we can do is look at it the way it looks. It's not enough. And Houston and New York keep getting better, right? Cardinals, not enough. So everybody's going to get on the Mets. And look, I'll get on them. If they don't do anything in the next 18 minutes, I'll get on them too. Am I going to freak out? No. Because why should I do that? For show? You want me to sit there and lie to you and make it up? I got Jacob deGrom pitching tonight against a bunch of kids. I got Scherzer. I got the best rotation in baseball the last 6 weeks. I got a team that's suddenly red-hot hitting, and they don't look like many problems. But the back end of the bullpen setting up Diaz is an issue. You saw it in the Yankee series, and that's where, to me, I got to have a problem with that. If the Mets don't pull off next 17 minutes to go, a Chafin, bring back a Loop elsewhere. I mean, there are other names. And look, you can go after the Bards of the world or somebody else and then say, who cares if it's left, right side? Because that doesn't matter. I just need somebody who can get outs. They need somebody to set up Edwin Diaz. Ottavino's been real good for this team, but they need to back him up a spot, in my opinion, put somebody and nestle that in that middle. Otherwise, it's not going to be good. But that's not where ire is going to be. You want me to make some up? That's why I hate this business, honestly. And I love it, but I hate it from that standpoint. I mean, we just make stuff up. Here's where the ire is. St. Louis, you're going to tell me you lost out on Juan Soto because you didn't want to trade Dylan Carlson? I really hope that's not true. You were in on Montas, couldn't get him. I heard the Cardinals' thought was, or people I talked to, they couldn't get Castillo because it was in division. But that all comes down to you didn't deal enough. It's like when somebody ends a relationship with you, they say, I don't have any time. You know what that means, people? They don't love you enough to make time. That is a bunch of crap. There's no such thing as I don't have any time. There's no such thing as I won't trade in division. You're not doing enough to make me trade in division. The Mets could have got Juan Soto if they would have dealt Alvarez, Mauricio, Beatty, and Vientos and said you can have all of them. No, they weren't going to do that. That's why they didn't do it, right? that the Cardinals couldn't get Castillo in division. Cardinals couldn't get Frankie Montas. They didn't want to give Dylan Carlson, I don't understand that, by the way, to go ahead and get one at all. You want to talk about, like, climbing the rope in gym class. I got a lineup where I got Soto in between Arenado and Goldschmidt for another 2+ years. Are you kidding? I'll pitch for them. Are you nuts? Who don't want to join that team? Yeah, look, I like Jose Quintana, but right now, Twins always, Cardinals for sure. I can't give you Dodgers because they didn't need Juan Soto, and like even though the Padres went and got better, they didn't have to go and react. By the way, mention the Twins. Somebody joked me earlier. I tweeted that they never do anything and it makes me upset. They announced Lopez. Boom. I just said something here. John Heyman comes out and says Michael Fulmer, who a lot of people like. Tigers. We're talking about relief corps and additions. So the Twins, banking on trying to get outs late in games and match up with you, now have added Fulmer and Jorge Lopez. Look, these are good additions, and they're I don't want to say they're very twin-like. Because I always joke about when they won the division a couple of years ago, they added my guy Sergio Romo, and it's like, that's not enough. What they do is nice. It's not enough. It's never enough. You know, they're bolstering their bullpen, and that's very nice. But they're going to be back-padded when the Yankees send them home in a few days. Not a few days from now, but in a matter of a few days. It's the way it is. It's the way it is. Yeah, you're talking about sacrificial lambs, the Nationals against DeGrom. It's the Twins. Anytime they play the Yankees ever. Don't matter. It's not enough for me. I like Fulmer. It's okay. I mean, really, it's like, it's like when you, one of the things I do not like being honest about the South, and I miss New York for a million reasons all the time. But one of the reasons that is high on the list is there are a lot more I'm sorry, I'm going to upset people, but I'm always honest. There's a lot more fake people here. Not generalizing everybody, but it's the quotient is way higher. And I lived in LA, and I don't even think it's as high as here. All right? It's two things that are higher, and I didn't realize that are higher than anywhere else I've lived, are traffic and fake people. Fake people, the blessed people, and that's what I think of, that's what you would say to the Twins about their moves. Michael Fulmer. Oh, no, that's a good move. Yeah, no, you bolstered your bullpen. It's a nice addition. That's how people talk to you down here, for me. It might just be the way I look, or they don't like me. Like this, we've got 13+ minutes to go until we get to the deadline, 6 Eastern. I'm taking you here with it. Remember, Believe Network, Believe Sports. Like every video, watch all my YouTube. I got 2 channels chock full of craziness for you in sports. And here at Casey Stern, anything you want to ask along the way, during the show, after the show, I will interact with you, talk, and I'm sure many Met fans are going to get mad if they don't do anything. I still think a reliever or something is coming down the pike. We got 13 minutes to go. We will find out whether or not they get to add more. Yes, if they do not add more, if the Mets do not get somebody, because look, if they don't get Contreras, they're still, it's all in on now it's about the pitching, right? And now you need more out of DeGrom, clearly, right? Isn't that some icing on some cake for you? But it's still going to be a team that right now, they're pretty good, right? They swept the Subway Series. They've won 7 in a row. You feel good about it. They're a pretty good team. It's not negative. But in that room, I think you want to feel something. Yeah, Vogelbach, we like. Darren Ruff. You had Contreras, you get some jump in that room. They need, though, to get some big timeouts down the stretch of games. Need to get some outs down the stretch. And as Andy Martino, my dude, who was on the podcast recently, as he points out, Fulmer was a guy the Mets were looking at. So was David Robertson, a guy the Mets were looking at. Right? Now, Chafin's another one. We'll see. But, Aaron Loop, who they had a great year, but, as Tyler Kepner was pointing out to me on the pod earlier, and he's right, look, they know what he did. He was brilliant for them. But, I can't hear, McGill's going to be in the pen. And look, McGill with his arm, by the way, remember how he started the year? That may be a coup in the bullpen as we sit now, 11 and a half minutes to go. He may be a coup in the bullpen with that arm. I got no idea. I can't bank on that. You can't tell me that's what I'm supposed to expect. I got to get some help in the back end of the bullpen. Mets got to get some help. 11 minutes to go. We'll see what's going on. All right? Giants, more sales. Do we get Rodon? Do we get Jock Peterson? What happens with Pablo Lopez? Watch the Cardinals. Noah Syndergaard still hasn't moved. Watch the Angels. Jays have a need there. Phillies have a need there with both of those 2 names I mentioned. Yankees could be in on Pablo Lopez as we now sit here just about 11 minutes exactly until we get to the 6 p.m. Eastern deadline. And I say exactly based on my clock. I don't know if everybody coordinated it. I didn't exactly talk to everybody. this morning. The Minnesota Twins, the most recent deal, acquiring Fulmer. Ken Rosenthal reporting the Phillies are close on Noah Syndergaard. Now, we'll find out if this happens, and we'll react to what is given. But I can't tell you enough that I know that a lot of Met fans who are watching and are listening and are thinking are going to be thinking, can you imagine I'm going to face Wheeler and Syndergaard? I mean, how much fun's that going to be? Noah Syndergaard, by the way, will get absolute. This is a guy when motivated. Remember, and it was craziness with all that Wilson Ramos BS a couple of years ago, right? But go look at, and I thought they should have traded him. Anybody who listens to me over the years on SiriusXM knows. I would please deal him now, because if you go back to right after that happened, All-Star break comes up until the deadline. He was like 7-0 with like a .1, like 2 whip and like an ERA under. Like nobody could touch the guy. He was pissed off and motivated. How do you think he's gonna? You don't think the Phillies know? You don't think the Phillies understand what he's gonna feel getting a chance to go beat the Mets? Getting to get out in that division? They know. They're stupid. Now, I don't know if he's going to do it. It may end up being a disaster, and who knows what they'll give. But again, according to Kenny Rosenthal, Phillies closing in on Syndergaard as we now just under, a tick under, 10 minutes to go until the deadline. So, latest news, last half an hour or so. Fulmer, Twins, addition, adds Jorge Lopez, who they got, the All-Star closer with the Orioles. David Robertson, who's already gone to the Philadelphia Phillies. Watch to see what happens with some of the other names, including, by the way, Chafin, who is still out there, and Aaron Loop, among others. Raisel Iglesias, a Bard, who still could be in the mix. So we watch the back-end relievers. But Fulmer ends up with the Twins, and Minnesota stays in division. Also, Ken Rosenthal reporting the Phillies are closing in on a deal with the Angels to bring in Noah Syndergaard. How crazy would that be? I mean, look, it would be some good mama drama in the National League Eastern Division, as we sit here, if that happens and gets finalized with just 9 minutes to go between now and the trade deadline at 6 Eastern. Trade deadline already has netted a ton of deals. I always count them every year. I haven't done that yet. But it netted a ton of deals. The biggest deal we've seen, Juan Soto, all the players that moved. You think about what that's going to mean. You go back to even when it started with Benintendi, and now people starting to get a little bit nervous. Now I'm seeing the tweets of Billy, as in Billy Epler, wake up. Because here's the thing that happens, right? The Braves, it didn't do really much more than the Mets did. I mean, you could talk about, look, Grossman's a nice ad, right? Will Smith was doing nothing for them. Odorizzi, a nice ad. Okay, try, right? Give him some innings down the stretch. Nothing crazy. Jason Stark reporting the Phillies have, in fact, traded Mickey Moniak and a second prospect to the Angels. Noah Syndergaard is going to the Phillies. So, now, Met fan is looking at it, just for example, and they're saying, oh, geez, well, you're telling me Robertson, the guy I thought we had, and I thought we had him, like they had him. He goes to Philadelphia. Syndergaard gets added by, clearly the Mets weren't bringing him in, but the point being the move, get better, get upped, right? You get upped. Use Donnie Brasco term. He gets added to Phillies, right? I've got Soto in the National League. I'm still going to have to face him, not in division. In the playoffs with the Padres, who had Brandon Drury, who the Mets could have brought back, right, moved around, who went and added a Josh Bell that the Mets certainly could have used, even though it was in the Soto deal, and added a Josh Hader. Hey, if Hader was available, how'd you like Hader setting up Edwin Diaz? I mean, look, that's the way, and I get it, that a Met fan is going to think, and right now, Cardinals, Mets, Jays, 3 teams right off the bat, top of my head, their fans are sitting there with 7.5 minutes to go. What the hell are we doing? The Mets very well might think they have enough right now, but they don't in the bullpen. Buck Showalter and Darren Ruff, according to Mike Puma, New York Post, he's one of the guys I know where people targeted. It's a good addition, it's a good piece, and something hitting left-handed pitchers we needed to get better at. And that's the truth. Cookie cutting, it's a good piece. So is the addition of Vogie. Vogelbach has already been that. They need to cookie cut something leading into Edwin Diaz. Otherwise, you got the Kenley Jansen scenario. I think McGill's an X factor. I think they feel that way with the arm if he's healthy. I feel the depth obviously gets better as you push everybody down the line and you think about having a Jacob deGrom who returns tonight. But Syndergaard added to the Phillies and into that NL East mix is very, very interesting. And for the Mets fans right now, they're thinking, what the heck are we doing as we sit here with just this little time to go? Toronto Blue Jays, small maneuver. They're acquiring right-hander Mitchell White from the Dodgers. Get a couple of minor league pitchers as that move is made. Again, remember, Michael Fulmer, it's been reported, on his way. In division still with the Minnesota Twins. We have not seen Chafin move yet. We have not seen Iglesias move yet. We have not seen Bard, there's some others move. Pablo Lopez available. How much so? Remember, there's not a need because there's control there. Carlos Rodon available. How much so? I don't know, even though he's a rental, because the Giants may not want to bolt and cut bait. They might want to stay in this mix. They're not exactly jumping ship, no offense, by dealing Darren Ruff and getting J.D. Davis and prospects. J.D. Davis has been hot and had those kind of runs as a hitter anyway. And the Giants really aren't about that. They're about using seemingly 100 guys to make it work. With the way Gabe Kapler and that team are able to do things, they need to figure out whether or not they want to move Rodon. There is 5 more minutes until the deadline. Again, Mickey Moniak, first-round pick, 2016, gone, along with another prospect, and Noah Syndergaard on his way to Philadelphia. Syndergaard, big splash late, and you think about Robertson, both are there, and now Syndergaard and Wheeler reunited against the New York Mets. Oh, won't that be interesting to be something to watch as we sit here now with 5 minutes to go. Remember this, the deadline again is at 6 Eastern, but as I said before, sometimes it'll trickle past, something gets in right at the end. You might find in 5 to 10 minutes afterwards. We'll see whether or not that is still the case. Cardinals are getting Jordan Montgomery from the Yankees, according to Ken Rosenthal. Interesting. So, now, follow me on where we are with a couple of things. Jordan Montgomery, look, and, he was kind of like almost the code red delivering him to the Mets going back a week and a half ago because the Mets have really hit him hard. But Montgomery's had, some nice stretches with the Yankees, when we look back at what we've got from the last couple of years. But this, to me, is interesting because Mark Feinsand reporting Pablo Lopez will stay with the Marlins. The Yankees were in on him. You think maybe, okay, if they move Montgomery, it opens up another spot. Maybe Lopez comes in. Is there another name? The Yankees were in the sort of mix, right? They had contacted, I had spoken to a couple people and made calls on Syndergaard. But is it Carlos Rodon? Perhaps in the not out of the question, 4 minutes to go. In the Yankees' future, is Severino, okay, on the road back, but you lost King. You've got the home situation. I don't even know what Chapman is. Trevino in the back end is going to help, certainly, who was in that deal. I got Frankie Montas, but if you're moving Montgomery, they're not that deep to start moving pitchers. Is there another one that could be coming in from the New York side? By the way, Harrison Bader. Now, the Yankees were in on and listening perhaps on Brett Phillips was the deal after the DFA from the Rays. He goes to the Orioles. Interesting on Harrison Bader. I like Harrison Bader. He's a New Yorker. Harrison Bader, anyone who's talked to him, immediately he's a New Yorker. So he'll be going home. For Yankee fans who are watching this who don't know that, they'll find that out on Twitter. They're going to really like this dude. He can field the heck out of it. The Mets, according to Bob Nightingale, get a reliever and a former Oriole in Michael Givens from the Chicago Cubs. Givens, a guy, when his slider is right, he's got a fastball-slider combo that can get outs and get you late in games. The problem is, he's not left-handed, and for me, I'm curious to see if this is the only move, but it helps. Okay, you can't. Somebody told me a long good time ago, a GM that I trust and respect. He said, something that he learned from his mentor years before was you have to fix it somewhere. If you can't get what you want, you got to improve in some way. You can't get a starter, get 2 relievers, cut the game backwards. You got to find a way, to, as Craig Counsell has said, is, in my opinion, as good as any manager in the game, and count down outs. Here's a guy who helps, veteran reliever Michael Givens from the Cubs, 2.66 ERA and 40-plus innings for the Cubbies this year. Givens goes to the Mets. Harrison Bader, New Yorker, on his way to go help out in the outfield. Now, when I talked about Ian Happ with the Yankees over the last few days, one of the things I kept saying that I liked was they needed to get somebody in there in that mix in the outfield in addition to Benintendi because you want to keep Stanton, when he's healthy, off his legs. Judge, same thing. Down the stretch, you want them to be rested. And I got to use the DH spot. And how am I going to feel defensively in the outfield? Now, and Hicks has been injury prone. Now you feel better with that. But I'm surprised to see Montgomery move because the depth goes the other way. And the Yankees are not loaded necessarily with pitching depth after the injury of King and with Severino having gone down. So, very interesting. The outfield defense is going up. Aaron Judge doesn't have to play center field. You've got Bader, who certainly will help out. That will help the pitching as we sit here with 2 minutes to go. Again, Michael Givens added to the Mets. All right. You've got the Michael Fulmer back into the bullpen help with Jorge Lopez, certainly more so. But Fulmer recently, last 20 minutes or so with the Twins, that gets added. Late deal from the Philadelphia Phillies. They added Syndergaard, Montgomery, and Quintana now. So you had 2 lefties if you're the Cardinals. And by the way, they think, like everybody else does, you got to get left-handed bats out, which I was just talking about. So you got Montgomery and now Quintana, 2 lefties who were added here by the St. Louis Cardinals in the last couple of days. Bader, as Joel Sherman reports, right now, by the way, currently on the DL, plantar fasciitis, which is a terrible injury. But he will, when he comes back, absolutely improve the defense for them in center field. Ken Rosenthal reporting confirmation Givens to the Mets. Fulmer, you've got Twins. Syndergaard comes from Moniak, former number 1 pick, and another prospect. He finds his way in the mix with Wheeler reuniting because it feels so good in that rotation with Philadelphia. They'll face the Mets plenty. That'll be interesting theater. How about Noah Syndergaard? That's an interesting one. I like the Bader Montgomery move is odd to me just because the Yankees giving up depth of any kind doesn't seem to make a lot of sense unless they thought that they were acquiring something else. And I'm not telling you, I'm here live with you, right? So I haven't been able to text you in the last hour. I'm not telling you that I know anything about Carlos Rodon. But if Pablo Lopez is not being moved, is there another move? Do the Yankees have a starter coming somewhere else? We'll see. Mets, by the way, according to Andy Martino, still trying for another reliever. They've been really hot and linked to Andrew Chafin. I know Aaron Loop was terrific for them last year, even though he hasn't a very good year. They've got to try and get lefties out as we sit now under a minute to go. And I'll stay with you for 5 minutes after the 6 o'clock deadline, when I think I'll pass out on my face after the last few days, and I'll be back with you for some podcasts tomorrow. But just in case things kind of pop in here in the last couple of seconds, want to be able to be with you. So again, if you're just joining in and you're here live, we're under a minute to go. A lot of times these things will shuffle in, not get reported. You got to go tell the players, then the GM or somebody leaks it and an agent tells a writer, then it gets reported. That's how it gets across the wire before it's official. So wait to see here in the next 5 minutes or so. I remember that happening with Verlander, 11th hour, 59th minute of the waiver deadline, 17. Remember that happening with Cespedes back in 15 with the Mets, David Price, same year when he got traded for the Tigers. These things happen. So we'll see here over the next 5 to 10 minutes what kind of deals trickle in, and I'll hang with you for a little bit. But interesting on this Noah Syndergaard side of things, because for the Phillies, their bullpen has always been a problem. This enables them when they add, 2 guys. When you add 2 guys of the experience in pitching in big spots, and we know we've seen them at high levels. One back-end Robertson, one front-end Syndergaard. It's going to put everybody in a better role. Mark Feinsand reporting the Royals have traded Whit Merrifield. I'm then reporting that means he will get vaccinated. And by the way, who knows where he's going. Now, Whit Merrifield, give you a few places that definitely would be fits for him to move around and bounce around. Dodgers are a team that love to do things like that. I mentioned Happ with the Yankees or the Jays. Whit Merrifield would do those kind of things and be a bounce around kind of guy. So let's see what kind of a match we have. But with the deadline ending, a big name kind of could be off the board. Whit Merrifield is a player to get you big hits, and he can move around in the field, and he's a valuable asset, valuable player. There have been all the conversation about whether Whit Merrifield would get vaccinated, and you saw the Benintendi scenario. I mean, look, I mentioned an earlier podcast. I don't care what your it's not politics. The idea of, I'm not putting anything in my body. If that's you, right? That's fine. If you're telling me it's my principle, but if I'm on a better team, I'll do it, that's a disaster. First of all, it's ridiculous. But it tells you if you trade for Whit Merrifield, most likely, that's not going to be an issue. And so Toronto, for example, would need to know that, don't you think, beforehand, or any team that would be playing in Toronto. We'll see whether or not that's going to be a scenario to watch. Yankees, Jeff Passan reporting, talking a number of pitchers with other teams. And Jordan Montgomery goes to St. Louis, so that deal done. Again, Quintana, we talked about that. Bader will go to New York. Carlson now will move over, who they didn't trade. Hey, you didn't move him for Soto. Now you get to see him in center field. I don't know what John Mozeliak is doing. That's just me. Look, I like Jordan Montgomery. I like Jose Quintana. Here we are back to the back pats again. but I don't know necessarily what it means. We'll see. Whit Merrifield, I want to wait to see kind of where he goes as we await that. Again, Mark Feinsand reporting that Merrifield is on the move. We'll find out where. The Blue Jays, according to John Heyman. Ironic, is it not? What was I just saying? Now here is, and I'll give you, I'll give you an empty the tank rant from the emptying of the tank. A deal like this does not get made unless somebody told Whit Merrifield he's going to the Jays, because the Jays are not going to, look, Whit Merrifield is the king right now of I'm not getting vaccinated and you can't make me. The Jays are in Toronto. Follow? They can't make the deal unless they know. Which means somebody reached out to Whit Merrifield and said on their behalf, hey, if we trade for you, are you going to get this vaccination? Are you sure about this vaccination? And Whit Merrifield said yes. Not only is Whit Merrifield the guy who said that he wouldn't get a vaccination, the guy who didn't want to, when 10 players with the Royals wouldn't vault and move, right, to go to Toronto for a series. Who cares? We're not good anyway. He said I wouldn't have played. Not only that, but Whit Merrifield said, yeah, maybe I get vaccinated if it's a better team. He's going to Toronto? He's going to a place, the world of you have to get vaccinated? He ain't just playing a series in Toronto. He ain't playing for a team like the Yankees. Well, they'll be with them in September for 3 days. Should I worry? No. He ain't playing for a National League team. I don't got to worry until I see him in the World Series. No. He going to Toronto? Are you kidding me? The guy who doesn't want to get vaccinated? Now I'll say, if I was a Royals fan, I would hate Whit Merrifield. I'm sorry. I would hate Whit Merrifield. Like, what a jerk this guy comes off like. I don't care about my own team. You're the leader in the room? I didn't care enough about my own team. Forget, it's not politics. I used this analogy when I did the pod. I moved to LA. They got this dumb rule where, I'm driving when I lived there for 3 years. And, you walk in New York, it's crazy, right? Everybody makes the rules on their own. You're driving and they take a step off the curb. I got to stop. Doesn't matter what's happening. Old lady, young man, doesn't matter, right? I got to stop. It's a dumb rule. I can't run them over. You may think a vaccination is stupid. Somebody tells you got to get one, and in order to play, you get vaccinated, okay? Somebody asks you, Ray, are you a god? You say yes. Somebody asks you, do I got to get vaccinated? You're the leader of the team. You get vaccinated and take the team to Toronto. Now you're traded to Toronto? You're so quickly willing not only to get vaccinated, but you're in the world of vaccination? That's a joke. You're a joke. I'm sorry. That is some crap. Of all places. Ironic and crazy fun way to end the deadline. You gotta be kidding me. You go to Toronto? I don't want to go there for a series with those Royals. I would hate him if I was a Royals fan. Sorry. That's a joke. I'll give you 2 podcasts at least tomorrow. I don't even know how many. I'll be on the Orioles pregame show if you're an Orioles fan on their radio station right before their game, right after Jackson Holiday in about an hour. I'm going to take a holiday from talking for a couple of minutes. You can follow me at Casey Stern if you're watching on YouTube. I've got 2 channels. I do music and family and all kinds of shenanigans. Join there, like the videos, dislike them, hate them. I don't really care. I'm not going to pretend I'm not getting vaccinated and move to Toronto. Are you kidding me? Toronto, of all people? Places, things, automobiles, trains, planes, follow them all. Unfiltered, the revolution continues. You gotta believe. BLEAV.